I'd say the highlight of my life was singing for the soldiers. I stood out on an open stage and it was cold and snowing, but I swear I didn't feel a thing except good.
This is the story of a girl who wanted with all her heart to feel good, but seldom did. Though she brought joy and warmth and laughter to many, she found very little joy throughout her short lifetime. This is the story of Merilyn Monroe. She was born in Hollywood on June 1st, 1926, the year that movie fans were paying homage to such stars as the tempestuous Gloria Swanson and the alluring Paula Negri. Other women worked in less glamorous jobs behind the scenes. One such woman was Gladys Baker, a film cutter who gave birth to a daughter who she calls Norma Jean. Deserted by the father of the child, she subsequently suffers from a nervous breakdown and is committed to a mental institution. The pretty child, now without a mother or a father, becomes a ward of the County of Los Angeles. While the United States is in the throes of a depression, little Norma Jean is being shuttled back and forth to various foster homes. The county allows $20 a month for the care of the homeless child, providing incentive to the many needy families that take her in as a way of supplementing their failing incomes. For a brief period, Gladys Baker is released from the institution, and she and her young daughter devour all the glitter of Hollywood. They attend film premieres and stand with awe in front of Grauman's Chinese Theater, examining the footprints of celebrated actors. Still troubled, however, and unable to function normally, Gladys returns to the hospital, leaving little Norma Jean to her glamorous fantasies that one day she too will become a star adored by millions and free from the veil of loneliness. She looks towards her idols, the handsome and romantic Clark Gable, the vivacious and sophisticated Claudette Colbert, and the strong and friendly Gary Cooper. But the star she loves most of all is Jean Harlow. And when Harlow dies at the age of 26, 11-year-old Norma Jean is inconsolable. In 1941, when Norma Jean, now a pretty and popular 15-year-old, graduates from junior high school, her guardians decide that she should marry the boy next door. So shortly after her 16th birthday, she marries 21-year-old aircraft worker James Dougherty and becomes a Van Nuys, California housewife. World War II is underway and Jim Dougherty goes off to sea as a merchant marine. His wife takes a job at the Burbank Defense Plant. In 1945, an Army photographer doing a story about women working on the home front takes this picture of Norma Jean, catapulting her into a career as a photographic model for the Blue Book Agency. A film test is made on her and she discovers that she loves being in front of the movie camera. She is equally pleased to learn that the agency is successfully selling her as the girl next door. A new world has opened up for Norma Jean. She divorces her husband and devotes herself fully to her new career. She soon receives assignments with top photographers such as Andre Debonet for magazines such as Family Circle and U.S. Camera. But the photographers tell her that there is much more money in the glamour shots and in cheesecake. and they are right. The photo on the cover of Laugh magazine attracts Howard Hughes, the same producer who discovered Jean Harlow. His interest in turn induces one of his competitors, 20th Century Fox, to sign Norma Jean Baker to a movie contract. She is ecstatic. Her own fantasy of stardom has begun to unfold. The studio heads insist on changing her name, and so Merilyn Monroe is born. With the exception of 2 walk-ons, the only way the studio utilizes her is for publicity shots. And in 1947, after just 1 year, Fox drops her. Undaunted, she returns to modeling, but works hard at her dramatic lessons. In these pictures, shot in 1948, we begin to see the depth and range of her expression as she depicts peace, sorrow, and death. Raised on a steady diet of rejection, she doesn't let her disappointment deter her, and continues to work with her drama coach. She supports herself with an occasional modeling job and unemployment insurance. She poses for what will become the most famous cheesecake calendar shot in history. Working with photographer Tom Kelly and artist Earl Moran, she soon develops a natural instinct for publicity, knowing that this is the best way to attract the attention of Hollywood producers. So when a dazzling blonde is needed to dress up a public occasion, Merilyn is always called upon. She loves being photographed, and her natural talent soon pays off. She wins small but noteworthy parts in 2 fine motion pictures, The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve. The public loves her. In 1950, 20th Century Fox, the studio that had dropped her just 3 years prior, now offers her a new contract. It is the time of the Korean War, and just as soldiers a decade earlier had worshipped Betty Grable and her legs, all heads are now turned to Merilyn Monroe as she becomes the GI's next pin-up queen. In 1952, Merilyn is highly acclaimed as an actress with the release of a film called Niagara, co-starring Joseph Cotten. In celebration of Merilyn's success and her new star status, band leader Ray Anthony throws a gala Hollywood party in her honor. In July of 1953, Merilyn returns to Grauman's Chinese Theater just as she had done with her mother 20 years earlier. Now, on the heels of her most recent success, the title role of the hit film, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, co-starring Jane Russell. The little girl who once looked wistfully at Hollywood from the outside was now established inside the film capital of the world. In 1954, at the age of 27, she married one of America's greatest baseball heroes, the Yankee Clipper himself, Joltin' Joe DiMaggio. A man from a large and friendly family, Merilyn looks forward to the warm kind of family relationship she had never known as a child. She is no longer a lonely, insecure girl, but a self-assured and very glamorous celebrity. But their honeymoon to Tokyo is soon clouded over by a third party, her overwhelming popularity. Even in Japan, where baseball heroes are revered, the dazzling fame of Merilyn Monroe eclipses that of her celebrated husband. The U.S. Army wants Merilyn to fly to Korea to entertain the troops, and although it would mean the interruption of her honeymoon, she does not refuse. Leaving her groom behind in Tokyo, Merilyn heads for Korea, where she does 10 shows in just 2 days.
you at automat. Men grow old, girls grow old, and we all lose that charm in the end. Yes, or can they be run, don't lose that day. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
She returns to Hollywood in time to receive the annual Photoplay Award.
Merilyn Monroe, it gives me the greatest pleasure to present the famous Photoplay magazine Gold Medal Award as the selection of all of the moviegoers of America who have voted you the most popular actress of the year. My congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Salmon. I want to thank the editors of Photoplay magazine and Old Republic. I thank you very much.
That summer, Merilyn is signed to star in The 7-Year Itch with Tom Ewell. While shooting a scene on location in New York, she attracts a crowd of 4,000 New Yorkers at 3 o'clock in the morning as she stands over a subway grating in a flimsy white dress. This shot will become almost as famous as her calendar picture. When the film opens in New York, men and women on the street are asked for their reaction to it.
Oh, I think it's terrific.
It's pretty vulgar, if you ask me.
How so?
I don't know. I don't think it's very nice.
Very nice. Some girl.
You like that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very nice, but I'd rather it were me.
I said, what has Merilyn Monroe got that a million other women have and prefer not to show?
I think it's wonderful. I think it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Merilyn's hopes of living happily ever after begin to fade, and her 10-month marriage to Joe DiMaggio is brought to an emotional close. In court, she tearfully tells the judge that she has not found the warmth and understanding she had sought. But perhaps the marriage was destined to fail, because by now, Merilyn was clearly a captive of her career, a career that is beginning to look troubled. She wants a greater voice in selecting her scripts and directors, and she wants more money. In early 1955, she walks out on her 20th Century Fox contract and goes to New York, where she forms her own film company, Merilyn Monroe Productions. TV talk host Edward R. Murrow invites Merilyn to be a guest on his Person-to-Person show, and he asks her why she made such a career move.
Primarily to contribute to help making good pictures. It's not that I object to doing musicals or comedies. In fact, I rather enjoy it. But I would like to do also dramatic parts too. Well, one of the best parts I've ever had was in the Asphalt Jungle, John Huston's picture. And then 7-Year Itch, well, Billy Wilder's picture.
Morrow asks Merilyn what her smallest role has been.
Two I can think of. One in a picture called Ticket to Tomahawk. I had one word. Well, not exactly a word. It said, And then, Skadahoos, In a picture called Skadahoos, I had one word to say. I said, hello. But it went fast. In fact, they cut it out.
Merilyn remains in New York in self-imposed exile, making sporadic public appearances as she understands very well that she must remain in the limelight if she is to command the attention of the studios. Finally, in 1956, because of public demand, Fox comes to terms with her, allowing her to make outside deals, the first of which is with Jack Warner of Warner Brothers. But before that, Merilyn makes a film for Fox called Bus Stop, in which her role as Cherry delights the critics and overwhelms the public. Upon returning to New York, Merilyn announces her forthcoming marriage to playwright Arthur Miller, whom she had met several years before in Hollywood. One of America's most distinguished playwrights, he represents to her a world she has never known, but to which she has aspired ever since she decided to become a serious actress.
Miss Monroe, could you tell us what your plans are after your marriage? Do you intend to continue your career?
July 13th, I'm going to England.
Yes.
Yes, and I'll be making the Sleeping Prince with Olivier.
Mm-hmm. And what about, I'm wondering about after your marriage, then, after this picture, do you intend to come back here and continue work here in this country?
Well, that depends.
And Merilyn vows that what she wants most of all is to be a good wife. Miller accompanies his bride to England, where she is to co-star with Sir Laurence Olivier in The Prince and the Showgirl. Olivier and his wife Vivian Lee welcome the Millers warmly. But just as Joe DiMaggio had to take a backseat to his bride while honeymooning in Tokyo, Miller must exercise patience as his wife is being sought by photographers as the world's most desirable woman. In October 1956 in England, Merilyn is presented to Queen Elizabeth. She appears to be happier and more comfortable than ever before when she returns to New York with her husband. The Arthur Millers fully embraced the New York social scene. In May of 1957, Arthur Miller is placed on trial for contempt of Congress. The devoted Merilyn follows him to Washington.
How have you been following the trial?
I've been following it.
Have you been reading the papers about it?
I'd rather not comment on it.
How long have you been here, Miss Monroe?
Since the beginning of the trial.
Just staying in the house here?
That's right.
Has the trial upset your personal life to any degree, Miss Monroe?
I would like to say that I'm fully confident that in the end my husband will win this case.
And it didn't upset your professional career at all? It didn't stop anything you were working on at the time?
No, I haven't been working recently.
What are your plans when you return to New York?
Well, we hope to go back to our normal life.
Would you care to comment on one rumor?
Successful in her career, married to a famous playwright, Merilyn seems closer to fulfillment than ever before. Rumors begin to spread that the Millers are expecting a child. Wanting a family of her own more than ever, she is terribly shaken by her miscarriages, each a year apart. Her fans console her as she leaves the hospital in New York. Merilyn returns to Hollywood in 1958 to star in Some Like It Hot, with Tony Curtis and directed by Billy Wilder. Her drama coach, Paula Krasberg, is always at her side. And her other constant companion is her husband, advising her on everything from makeup, publicity stills, and her performance. The film is one of the greatest box office hits of the year and becomes the vehicle through which Merilyn is able to show off her wonderful ability as a comedienne. Her next film, 2 years later in 1960, is Let's Make Love, with French actor Yves Montand. At this time, reports begin to circulate that her marriage to Arthur Miller is quite a bit less than the perfect image they had once projected. Miller, however, has already written The Misfits for Merilyn to star in with her childhood idol, Clark Gable. But her emotions are taking their toll, and in the midst of shooting, she collapses and is hospitalized for a brief time. The film is finally finished, and so too is her marriage to Arthur Miller. 1961 is a bitter year for Merilyn Monroe. With sleeping pills and psychiatric treatment, she tries to escape from the reality of her failed marriage. At times, she seems to manage. Despite her loneliness, she still has her career and the public loves her. So she clings to that. In 1962, she returns to Hollywood to make Something's Got to Give for Fox. On June 1st, director George Cukor and the film's cast throws Merilyn a party in celebration of her 36th birthday. It's a happy party and Merilyn's future looks bright again. But it's just an illusion. Once more, she is seized by depression. The studio does not condone her frequent absences from work. She feels she has nothing to hang on to. She has no husband, no family, and her career seems to be collapsing. Her association with John and Robert Kennedy begins to hit the gossip columns. Everything she has longed for has vanished. She is left only with her loneliness. How do we measure the value of a single human life? By what is given? By what is left behind? There are many markings that tell us Merilyn Monroe passed by here. A major box office draw, who earned millions of dollars, and whose form has been imprinted on the minds and in the hearts of all who saw her, on screen, in magazines, and on the stage entertaining the troops. She brought joy and laughter to many, evoked emotion and praise from others, but no one who saw or knew Merilyn was unaffected. Vulnerable, yet hopeful. A lonely Norma Jean has left a legacy that continues to live long after she closed her eyes for the last time on August 5th, 1962. Finding peace at last.